Hello and welcome, my friends, to the Zenpreneur podcast. This is your host, Mario Lanzarotti, today with a very special guest. His name is Voy Wiacek. He's a certified master coach, a men's group facilitator, and the co-founder of Modern Renaissance Men. He empowers high performance and creative visionaries to master their inner world, amplify their authenticity, and embody their greatest potential. And he happens to be one of the best friends in the world to me. Him and I, we have traveled, we have hosted men's groups together. He's inspired me dearly. He's helped me dearly. He's helped me grow. And today I'm so excited to have him here with me on the show. Voy, my brother, welcome.
Mario, what's going on, my brother? So good to be here. This is long, long overdue. I'm so stoked to be in this conversation with you, my brother.
I am equally excited. And I want to start out the conversation by having you speak into what is it that drew you to men's work? And maybe in the same breath, can you also elaborate what is men's work actually?
Mm. Yeah, absolutely, man. So to start off with my story, long story short, when I was 19, I was going through a very difficult time, like most of us. There's like this moment in our time that really shifts everything. And within a week time frame, my girlfriend left me. My dream car got stolen. And if you can imagine, bro, at 19, having a nice car, it's like you're the man. It got stolen, and my best friend tried to commit suicide. And I didn't have the tools or resources to
Damn.
really feel those emotions, and everything just got bottled up. So I remember being there on the floor, crying and just feeling like I can't hold it together. And I was pounding the floor so hard, bro, with all this anger and rage and emotions that I passed out. And then when I woke up, something came through and said, you don't have to feel this way. There's an opportunity to do different. So I claimed it and I was like, that's it. I'm going to shift from now on. And the idea that came through was to start reading books. So books were essentially the thing that opened up my mind to a whole new perspective because I thought the way I was just the way I was going to be. Right. And as I got into reading, that opened a door to breathwork, to meditations, and I started to get into the world of personal development. Now, where men's work comes in is I followed the traditional path that most men do. Go to college, get a high paying job, wear suits, drive a nice car, date pretty women. Had it all. Working in a corporate environment, I thought I was the man, right? But I wasn't really sure how to be a man. And there was this man in the corporate office. I was working sales and he was working marketing. And every time I saw this guy, bro, I was like, I don't like this guy. And that was just a full on projection, right? It was my own stuff, but I was projecting onto him. And then I think within that week, I saw a quote from Abraham Lincoln, and it said something along the lines of, I don't like this man. I must get to know him better. And I took that as an invitation to explore this relationship. So this man walks into the kitchen. I walk in, he's making a coffee, and I'm like, what's up, bro? And he goes, what's up, man? And we just start jamming, just start talking. And he's talking about a book club that he's starting. And again, I was into books. There was something that was supporting me. So I was like, you know what? I'm open to it. I'm going to come by. So he invited me to a book club and he invited all his friends. I show up to his house. The door opens. There's a lot of seats, but there's nobody there. And I'm like, hey, man, I know I'm on time. Where's everybody else? And he's like, listen, I invited everybody, but you're the only one that showed up. And in that moment, he was kind of like, if you want to go home, you can. My apologies, but I did my best. And I was like, you know what? Let's go through with it. And we sat down, talked a little bit about the book, but then we put the book aside and we went deep into like, how am I actually feeling? Right? What's coming through for me? What are the things that I'm really inspired by that I desire outside of money, cars, and women? And in that moment was the first time ever I was fully seen and heard by another man, even more deeper than I've ever been by my father. And I know you do breathwork, Mario. You know that feeling of like the electricity after breathwork and this jolt of energy. I walked out of there feeling that way. And I was just like, holy shit, I need to experience this again. So we invited a couple more friends. 2 guys showed up, and long story short, that was actually the evolution of modern Renaissance man. And that's actually how I got into men's work for the first time. Now, to your second question, what men's work is to me is just an opportunity for a man to rediscover or discover who he is and have the accountability and the safe space to do so.
Wow, what a story. I mean, if more men in the world had access to the tools that you are talking about, I think we would see the mental health crisis plummet, and we would see so many more men heal. And this conversation has so many facets that we can look into, but I want to know a little bit more about your journey, because a lot of men are very hesitant to this work. You hear a lot of like, this is fluff. I don't want to do this. I don't have time for this stuff. Does it even work? Why should I do it? And I'd love for you to speak more into, as you went along with your journey. I know you do a lot of plant medicine journeys. What have you seen that made you keep coming back to this work? Like, what is it about it for you that makes it non-negotiable to have it as a stationary in your life?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. And one of the most beautiful ways to see how this work has been really working is how the world is reflecting back to me how I'm living. And the
Mm.
level of joy, freedom, and experiences that I've now been able to cultivate is a direct reflection of the work that I've been doing, not only in the men's workspace, but with plant medicine and coaching. That in itself has just been the pure evidence that I need. And starting out when I was 19, long story short, when I moved from Poland after my sister passed away and my mom went to depression, my dad was drinking, and we moved from a village where there was only 5 homes to New Jersey, where it's like cars, planes, people, so much energy. I was just carrying so much anxiety and my nervous system was so dysregulated that even if we had a conversation like this right now, I would just be drenched in sweat and I would just
Wow.
like leave my body and dissociate. So that in itself, to see where I was to where I am at now, is also another direct reflection that the work works. So again, living the way I'm living, feeling a deep sense of freedom, joy, being on my own schedule, right? Feeling in purpose, on purpose, and living my mission. That is a direct reflection as to why I keep coming back to this work, because it just keeps getting better. And the question that I
Mm.
keep asking myself is, how much better can it get?
Mm. Speak a little for us into what you mean by freedom, because this word gets tossed around a lot, and I find it sometimes it's really hard to grasp. But like, what does the experience of freedom for a man, for you, look like, that can maybe make it a bit more tangible for other men that are like, I'm not sure if I actually want that, but it sounds so great. I mean, seeing you here speak on camera looks amazing, but like, what is it all about?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I'm glad you brought this up, because for me, freedom is my number one value. And I know for you as well, my brother, since we're obviously close and we developed a great relationship, that's something that inspires you also. And there's, to me, different levels of or layers of freedom, but I'll speak to the ones that are most present for me right now. And when I think about freedom for myself, the biggest thing is the ability to choose, right? To choose different and fully express my authentic expression. And there
Mm.
was a study that I came across one time. I can't remember the name right now, but essentially they had a machine where they were testing the different levels of frequencies that we get to like embody, and emotions or emotional states that we step into. And at the top, right, I would think like love and joy and like enlightenment were one of the highest. But really what they came to find out is when we're truly free and aligned in this place of authenticity is when we get to
Mm.
step into the highest expression, which is again authentic self-expression. So to me, freedom is authentic self-expression and having the opportunity to choose, right? So that's what I would say to
So
me is authentic self-expression and the ability to choose are those two things that embody freedom for me.
does that mean something along the lines of being as you are or being who you truly are?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really tapping into my truth and feeling
Yeah.
that in this moment, as I show up, whether the world accepts me or not, I know I showed up as I am. And that for me feels like the ultimate form of power
Yeah.
and really, again, authentic self-expression and freedom. Because when I know I showed up fully and gave it my all, I'm walking away from whatever experience feeling completely whole and like myself. And I'm
So that's
curious.
what I want to. Yes, you have a question for me?
Yeah, I'm curious. What does it mean for you, bro?
Oh, freedom. What does freedom mean to me? Freedom means to freedom also means ownership to me. It means
Mm,
like I
mm,
choose this and I own that choice. And I don't need to explain to you why I do it. And it's like, what, well, why do you like chocolate? Because I like chocolate. Yeah, but why? Because I do. Yeah, but tell me why. I need to know why. It's like, no, you don't. I just like it. Right. So it's living. It's I for me, freedom and peace are on the same note. Like when you're free, you're at peace,
mm,
and when you're at peace, you're free.
mm.
And to me, that means living in alignment with the choices you make. It's stepping away from what is right and what is wrong, what is good and what is bad. It means to me being in the space where you get to own the life you want to live. And that might be radically different from what most people think the way you should live, or even from the way your conditioned mind thinks you should live. And it's coming to this place of full on acceptance. It's like, look, this is who I am. And some coach might tell me, yeah, but you're not fully optimized. There's still, you say, okay, this is who I am. And if I can truly own that, I'm free. And then I am at peace. So I think it's very similar to the way that you described it.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's kind of like having a buffet or having the awareness to know that I have a buffet and having the power to choose what I actually want to eat without people telling me what I should eat. And then when I eat what I
Exactly.
eat, I fully enjoy it. And that makes me happy, enjoy, at peace. And I get to show up in the world in that way. Yeah.
Spot on. You got it. Now, on the same breath, obviously, you are somebody who's lived a life where you weren't free, you were not able to access, or let me say, you are not living in alignment with your dominant value of freedom. And now you are. And I'm curious, what would you say are some of the symptoms that you were experiencing that you now see a lot of men also experience, where you can say, this person is not living in alignment with their top values? They're out of alignment. What is it that you look at that makes you quickly go, yep, that's it?
Yeah. I mean, speaking to the men that I typically work with, I usually work with a lot of entrepreneurs and high performers, and I consider myself to be one. So to answer your question, I'll speak to what I experienced back in the day that really now I see in others as well. And one of the biggest things that I continuously felt was I felt like I was never doing enough.
Ah,
I felt like I was never doing enough. And no matter how many achievements I received, it felt like I wasn't able to actually enjoy the success. So then I kept stepping into the energy of chasing, trying to get the next goal, thinking that if I reach the next goal, I'll then feel free. And when we show up from the energy, or when I showed up from this energy of chasing or constantly being in the pursuit, I was showing up from a place of lack. And the energy that I was using to build and show up to this energy of lack was making me more drained and ultimately was causing me feeling overwhelmed, anxious, and ultimately burnt out. Right.
mm-hmm.
Another thing, another thing to that was also feeling guilty for taking rest. Feeling guilty for taking rest. And I realized that a part of me actually underneath that was feeling unworthy, and undeserving of actually pausing, because I felt if I paused, I wasn't being efficient or I wasn't being optimal. And looking at the culture right now that we see, especially on social media, it's this like hustle and grind mentality of like no sleep. You got to be up 7 days, working 24-hour days. And I used to see that and be like, holy shit, if I don't do that, I'm not going to be successful, right? So my own boundaries, I overstepped. And the things that I actually enjoyed doing over time, I started to resist and despise, right? So those two things, and I have plenty more, but I'll just stop there. The fear of never doing enough, and then not actually allowing myself to rest because I thought resting was unproductive, which is totally the opposite. And what I see a lot of men step into is they think the solution is work harder, hustle more,
Right.
grind more. And all that does is just burn them out. And then they have to rediscover themselves and go through this whole process of really finding out what freedom is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you think this comes from? This sense of undeservingness, the sense of lack. Like, where do you think this stems from in most of the men that you encounter?
Yeah. From most of the men that I encounter, it all typically stems from our childhood, right? There was some kind of experiences in our childhood that we had that then made us feel like we have to overcompensate or do something outside of ourselves to prove that we're worthy of love, prove that we're worthy of acceptance, and so forth. So typically looking at a lot of men, a lot of that stems from the relationship with mom or their dad. Now for me, I'll speak for myself, that stemmed from the relationship with my father, right? My father's a great man. We have an incredible relationship, especially after me doing man's work. I see him completely different, but he never had the tools growing up that I now have. So he didn't offer me the level of love and acceptance and sitting down and putting his hand on my shoulder and telling me I love him, he loves me, and I'm doing a great job. So ultimately, as a child, I didn't receive that. So I felt I needed to perform in a certain way so that he would see me. And if he saw me, then I would feel worthy of his love. And in my mind, then I would be accepted. So I literally went out and started to build multiple businesses to prove to my dad that I'm actually worthy of, one, being a man, and two, worthy of being his son. And it's interesting to even talk about this now because I remember working in corporate and I would get like my first $20,000 sale and I would come back home and just go to my dad and be like, I got my first $20,000 sale. And like I would sit there in front of him and tell him all these things, not because I was celebrating myself or I was proud of it, but because I wanted him to see me. Because underneath that, I just wanted his fucking love. Right? So the relationship with our father is typically a big entry point to freedom because it can show up as men having perfectionism. It can show up as men having imposter syndrome, the fear of failure, the fear of success, the inability to actually rest, right? And fully be vulnerable and express their truth, which ultimately leads to that place of freedom. So that's one key area we can look at to support men and myself in experiencing more freedom and actually coming from the energy of receiving and being magnetic as opposed to chasing and feeling like I'm always hustling and grinding. And it's a big difference. It's a big difference.
So it's so interesting, if you think about what you say. Essentially, we're spending lifetimes making up for the idea of not having been enough in a certain moment in time when we were younger. Right? Because what you're describing often is created in a moment. It's like, you you're at the soccer match or at the football match, and you score the touchdown, and you look to the seating area, and you're just ready to just go with your dad, and he isn't there, and you're like, you're and he doesn't see you, right? He's
Hmm.
like, he's not there, and that is a heartbreaking moment. And now you make this unconscious decision, like, I'll prove you, I will show you how good I am, right? I'm going to be the best so that I'm worthy of you actually making the effort to come. And how we build entire lives around these moments of pain just to keep the pain at bay, right? To stuff it away, go harder, work longer hours. And a lot of men are stuck there in that place. What would you say is like one of the first steps once you realize, okay, clearly this has something to do with my dad, like because of the relationship with my father? And where would you guide somebody from there if that person wants to get to a place of freedom?
Yeah, great question, man. So you said the first step, and the first step is always awareness, right? We can't intervene in a world we can't see. And it's very difficult for I myself to see what my quote unquote bullshit is, or what my pain is, or what my limitations are, unless I actually sit down and have some kind of tool or coach like yourself to help me
Mm,
see that, which is why I believe coaching is so potent. And I know you resonate with that as well, because the other person can mirror back what we don't see. So awareness is
mm,
always the first step. Now, once we have awareness, then we get to go into the story and actually see what was the pain that was caused within the story, right? What did I develop, or what kind of mechanism did I develop, right? To then show up in the world. Because whatever pain we have, there's always some kind of motive behind it. And once I see the pain, I then get to transition after a level of acceptance and forgiveness into seeing what the gifts are. Because there is a gift. And when we get to take pain and turn it into purpose, that's to me when we find freedom, right? So if I had to give a man steps, one is awareness, two is exploring the story and the belief that was created from that experience, then stepping into a level of acceptance, ownership, and forgiveness, and then allowing myself to see the gift, or shifting the belief into a more empowering one, so I can take that with me and move from a level of purpose. Because again, some of
yeah.
the most amazing and inspiring stories from men that we see is people going through some kind of challenging time and accepting it, working through it, and then finding the gift in it, right? And if you look at most people, or most successful people, there's something that happened in their life that caused a lot of pain. They found the gift in it, and then they usually turn that into some kind of business or coaching or whatever it is that they have. So for me,
Yeah.
those will be the steps. And there's many different ways of going about this, but this is one that
Mm,
I would invite men to look at.
mm. I resonate with that one a lot. And to give a bit more context to how important this is, I remember having blamed my father for, man, for decades,
Mm,
for having cheated on my mother when I was younger. And their marriage ended, and they moved apart, and all I could see was my father in this light of, you cheated on mom, it's your fault that that now the marriage fell apart, and that now I grow up without a fully functioning uh, parental relationship. And I swore to myself, like, so vividly, I remember that I will never be like my father. And then if I look at my past relationships, I cheated. I did the same thing, and
mm,
I hated myself for it, just like I hated my father for having cheated.
mm,
And I never made the connection, because I was like, how is this possible that I swear to myself I will never do what my father does, and then I did exactly the same thing? And then I had such a breakthrough where I realized you become what you hate.
yep.
And I had been investing so much energy into, I'm not going to cheat, I'm not going to cheat, I'm not going to cheat, that my mind picked up cheating. right? Because the mind cannot tell the difference between I want and I don't want. It will only bring you closer to what you focus on. And when I learned that, I had to learn how to forgive my dad, and I forgave my dad, and I let go of that whole resentment underneath. And I actually saw my father for being an incredible man, because my mother did things too. But guess what? My father never said anything. My father, in fact, always told me, respect your mother. Respect your mother. Don't talk bad about your mother. Don't talk bad at her. Respect your mother. Always. And he had later on, when I was out of the house and then with my sister then opened up the cabinet about my mom, and I'm like, she did what? That bitch? I was like, what? And then I had a thing with my mother, and I had to work through that, right? And it's all good now. But it was so profound to me to realize that so much of the behavior that we don't want, like the, let's quote unquote, negative behavior, is based upon the judgments we're still holding true about our parents.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Without a doubt. And somebody once told me this. This is like a funny metaphor to what you just said. They said that the universe reflects back exactly what we're speaking to it, right? So if I tell the universe I'm an asshole, the universe goes, "Great, yes you are," and it reflects that back to me, right? But if I say I am incredible, the universe goes, "Yes you are," and reflects that back to me. So it's like the universe never says no; it always says yes. And to what you just mentioned, what I heard when you said, I don't want to be like my father, or I resent him, I hate him, the universe was literally saying, yes, exactly. And you were embodying more of that energy, which was then getting reflected to you through other relationships with women, friends, or whatever the case was. So, yeah, resonate with
Yeah.
that totally, bro. Without a doubt. I had a lot of those experiences with my dad, too. Yeah.
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 And this is why for those of you that don't know, that Voy plays and played a pivotal role in my life. Together we started a men's group in Tulum in Mexico called Evolutionary Men, and it was one of the most empowering experience that I've had in my life. And I really firsthand saw the benefit and the value of having a group of men that you can lean on, that you can connect with. It was so life-changing for me. And I would love for you to speak more into why you think, not just on a one-to-one basis, but like on a group basis, why do you see as it being so important to have a group of trusted men in your life?
Yeah, man. And I appreciate you sharing that. And for me, reflecting that back, same experience, bro. Having you there and starting that movement, to be honest, because it grew into something really big and special, was definitely life changing. Now, to answer your question, there's a quote that I once heard that really encompasses this well. It's not the weight that breaks the man, it's how he carries it. And as men, we have a
Wow.
lot of responsibilities, right? We're always going to have responsibilities because that's what we as men crave and desire. We desire challenge. We do. We grow through challenge. But a lot of men take on so much responsibility and so much challenge, and they feel like they have to do it themselves, that
Yeah.
that weight essentially starts to break them down and crumble them down into a place of, again, anxiety, overwhelm, fear of failure, fear of success, burnout, you name it. So having men in my corner, in your corner, who can help us take the load off so that we can get clear as to what the next steps are to create the life we love, and then hold us with accountability and love to make sure we're moving in that direction, is life changing, right? Because it's very easy for us men to create our little back doors. I can tell myself I'm going to wake up tomorrow at 7 a.m. and work out. But if nobody's here holding me accountable and watching that, I'll find an excuse sometimes and let myself slip, right? And once we slip once, it happens again and again and again and again. However, if we have a group of men who hold us accountable and are calling us forward, not calling us out, we get to rise to that standard, right? And there was a beautiful study that was done a while ago. I came across, and it was about monkeys and sweet potatoes. I don't know if you heard about this, but there was an island where scientists took sweet potatoes and they dumped them onto the shoreline of the beach. And these monkeys ran up, they took the sweet potatoes, they were looking at it, they were exploring it, and they decided to eat it. And they're like, wow, sweet potato, this is great, awesome. Now, as they were going through this experience, scientists dropped off the potatoes again. And then one of the monkeys ran up, a younger monkey, and it took the potato and it washed it. It washed it from the sand. And then the other monkeys realized, oh, wow, whatever this monkey just did, it now tastes better. So they followed it as well. And the whole group started to rise and have sweet potatoes that are clean and tasting much better, right? So it's like the group is rising as one person rises. Now, here's the beautiful piece about this. There was another island that was miles away. And the scientists went to that island and they dropped off the potatoes. And the monkeys already were taking the potatoes and washing them, because they said, I think after 99 monkeys, after the 100th monkey, the consciousness started to rise. And those monkeys just already knew through the field to wash the potatoes, right? Which is like so interesting to see. And the reason why I share that is because as men, when one of us rises, we all rise. And then that energy is then transferred into the world, into the consciousness of the world, and the whole collective rises, right? And tribes, being in tribe and community, it's in our DNA. We've been doing this since day one. So having powerful men to be mirrors for us and help us see what we don't see, hold us accountable, and invite a new standard of excellence, it's a cheat code. It's a hack to get to the life that we desire much faster with ease and grace, as opposed to resistance, hustle, and feeling like I have to do it alone. So long story short.
That's such a good point, you know, like this. I think the raising your standard, like, I don't know who said it, but I'm paraphrasing, somewhere along the lines of, you're always going to fall to the level of your standard. And if I think about that, that's so true, because when you are surrounded by other powerful men who are in a loving way not going to tolerate your bullshit, it's one of the best life insurances that I can think of, because you're always in a tribe of men who will carry you, who will support you, who will nurture you to be at your best. And you know, another thing that I'm curious also to hear your perspective on it is, when I first got into this world of men's work, I was working with Sacred Sons with Aubert. He was leading the group himself at the time. And I met incredible men that some of them I'm still connected with today. I opened up about something that happened in my life that I felt so ashamed of, that I swore to myself I would never share this with a living soul. Because if I did, you know, people are going to reject me, they're going to ridicule me, blah, blah, all of that stuff. And through the work there in that group, it just came up and I could not get rid of it anymore, because the level of the container had elevated here, and I could feel how it was pulling me up, and I couldn't avoid it anymore. And I remember I texted Aubert individually. I said, dude, I got this thing, you know, and I want to share it, but I don't want to share it in front of the group because, you know, it's too many people. Can I just have a one-on-one with you? And he challenged me, and he called me forth, and he said, do it. I'm going to hold you there. We're all going to be there for you. And I shared it, and I had the biggest emotional breakdown in front of other people to this day that I can remember. And it was frightening, but it was probably at least top 3 most liberating things I've done in my whole life. Like, it was incredible. The support that I got after that. And I know many men, maybe even most men, carry something like that deep in their psyche. And they will rather die before they speak to that. So I'd love for
Hmm.
you to speak to shame and guilt in men that you are seeing as like a common pattern. And, what is it about? Why is it? And maybe you can offer a new perspective on it that allows men that are listening and watching to feel like, hey, I can actually take a step forward with this.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you for sharing that first and foremost, brother. And I really just honor your level of willingness to continuously step into the pit and allow yourself to be seen and grow and elevate. And obviously, we're great friends, best friends. So I know all the things you've done, and to hear you share that story, bro, is really inspiring, man. So thank you for dropping that in, brother. Um, and you said it beautifully, man. Shame is typically the thing that is like the last piece for us men to really lean into and speak into to create that deeper level of freedom. And shame likes to hide. It likes to hide. It feels like sometimes we've done all the work, but then we find out like there's still something there coming up. And by accessing that shame and allowing ourselves to speak it out, and here's the key thing, not from a place of like, oh no, I did this, but from fucking dignity, from owning it. When we really speak it out into the world, it loses its power. And in that moment, we realize, like, holy shit, when I allow myself to be seen in that, and most importantly, get held by people who aren't judging me, they just see me as is, the level of
Mm.
self expression, of trust within myself, of confidence is next level. And how we do one thing is how we do everything. So even just showing up in a men's group and speaking to your shame as you have, I'm assuming right now, but as you stepped out of that container, your level of self-expression and the standard of how you show up rose without a doubt.
Big time. Big
Big
time.
time. Yeah, big
Yeah.
time. So
Yeah.
again, shame is typically the thing that's underneath at the bottom. And a lot of us men carry this shame because the world and culture nowadays is a little bit confusing, right? Some sides of the world want men to be vulnerable and expressive and cry. Some of them want to be stoic and firm and not share any emotions. So we as men get really confused. And then when we
Mm.
hold this shame and we feel that it's present, we don't know what to do with it. So we just stuff it down. And sort of like a little teapot, when we keep stuffing things down, the teapot gets so hot that soon enough it starts to overflow. And that overflow impacts our relationships with our loved ones. It impacts how we show up in our business. It drains us from our energy and takes away from our drive and passion and motivation and so forth, right? So when we think about shame, shame is a big one that we all get to lean into, but it has to be done in a safe space that can actually hold it. And something I've done myself about a month ago, I went to Texas to a workshop. And the reason why I do this work is, again, because I get to live this life that I live. And they had me go in front of 40 people and fully undress myself, fully naked, like butt naked, everything out. And I went in front of all 40 people and spoke about my deepest shame, being fully naked. And it was
Damn.
super edgy to do that, but also one of the most liberating and freeing experiences I've ever had in my life. And I know for those listening, it's like, man, this guy's crazy. Like, I don't want to go out there and get naked. You don't have to. You don't have to, right? But this is something I chose because I
Mm.
seen my mentors and my teachers lean into modalities like this, and the level of freedom I've been now feeling, how I express myself to people and how I feel within my body has been next level, right? So I'll pause there for a moment
Wow.
and allow you
I
to receive
mean,
that.
that last point that you shared, like sharing yourself naked in front of a group, I'm assuming in a very carefully created space with agreements and rules and all of that. I mean, sounds very edgy to me for sure. Don't know that would be for me, but kudos to you for doing that. And
Yeah.
I think shame is probably the biggest block to men all over the world. Not just men, obviously women as well. But it's this, even if you look at the sort of the frequencies of where we are and
Hmm.
and where we can reach. You spoke about it in the beginning, sort of enlightenment being the highest, oneness, and at the lowest, at the bottom, is shame.
Shame.
And it's something that's so normalized in our society, like shaming each other, like this
Hmm.
phrase, shame on you. Like it's so
Hmm.
normalized, like it's like, oh, no big deal, right? Oh, shame on you. And really realizing where it's keeping us and how it's preventing us from having the kind of life that we want and truly being free and truly being ourselves and being at peace, I find is so crucial. So you're
Yeah.
doing a really important work for the world with this message that you're sharing.
Thank you, brother. And may I share another example that I think would bring the idea of freedom and shame and everything we're speaking to home.
Please.
So I believe that when we are born or brought into this world, we're pure. We're not perfect, but we're pure. And as a baby, this pureness and this connection and this energy that we bring in is so special. However, when we grow up and we go through the world and our parents bring in their beliefs, society brings in their beliefs, school and education and culture, this kind of shame starts coming over us, like you said, and building this layer that then prevents us from being true, authentic, and really being the person that we desire. And there's a story that I'm sure you heard many times, but I'll share it here again for those that haven't heard it, about Michelangelo and the statue of David, right?
Mm.
And there was an experience where Michelangelo was hired by one of the kings to craft the statue of David that we now know. And when he came in there was a marble, and it was just a regular box. And one of the, I don't know what you would call it back in the day, a reporter, right? The town reporter, whatever we want to call it, came by and he asked Michelangelo, he goes, Michelangelo, how are you going to create a masterpiece out of this stone? And Michelangelo said, it's easy. I'm just going to remove everything that is not David, and out will come the masterpiece. So when I look at this work as well, it's like we're already whole and perfect, we're pure, authentic, we have the truth, the confidence within. We just now get to remove, like you said, that shame, that guilt from ourselves. So out can come out this being that is us, that is our truth, that is our freedom and our authentic self-expression. So yeah,
Mm.
I wanted to share that piece so that it lands for those
Yeah.
listening, because again, everything we have is already within.
Yeah.
Right.
That is so, it's a beautiful way to bring that one home. And now, how do you bring that into a practical entrepreneurial day-to-day operation? Right? Because they'll be like, look, you're telling me I have everything that I need, right? But I don't have the money. I don't have the success yet. I don't have the impact, right? I don't have the recognition. I don't have all of that. So I got to go out and get it. I got to hustle. I got to grind, man. Like, what would you tell to somebody who thinks like that?
Yeah, the first thing that I would say, and let this land for those listening, it's not what we do, it's how we do it,
Hmm.
right? And being intentional with how we create in the world, again, that energy is going to be mirrored and reflected back to us. So the gain here is to bring awareness to how we move and how we create in the world. So a simple thing that anybody can do is just to create an experience that helps you become aware, whether that's through journaling in the morning, or sitting with a 5-minute meditation to allow yourself to see what's coming through and what's arising, right? So sometimes even working out and allowing yourself to be in the body so that you're not stuck in the mind over analyzing and sitting in imposter syndrome and thinking of analysis paralysis, right? So 3 little steps to allow somebody to start crafting a new reality is to bring awareness to the world that they're currently in. And again, we can't intervene in a world we can't see. So taking 5 minutes and asking myself, why am I feeling this way? What is this teaching me? What's coming up for me? So that we can reflect and get the opportunity to choose. Because once I see that I'm doing something from that habit that maybe was passed on by my dad, now the power and the ball is in my court. Do I stay the same or do I choose different? And that's where the action of freedom comes in and allows this person to create habits that are more aligned with their truth and abundance as opposed to lack and scarcity. Now, going beyond that, doing a men's group, right? Having a group of men that can reflect and support, hiring a coach, right? Or again, sticking to the basics because it's the fundamentals that really help us create the foundation that we desire. So I would say starting there is a beautiful opportunity.
Yeah.
And then listening to podcasts like the Zenpreneur also allows that as well. Just plugging that in there.
Like I wanna put this a bit further to the test, for those people that are like still like, yeah, man, but I got no time, like I gotta work harder, I gotta complete more things, and you've obviously lived in both worlds, the hustle grind, and in this case, the Zenpreneur world, where you're operating from a flow state. What have you noticed that happened to your ability to achieve as you moved away from hustle grind more to the Zenpreneur path?
Yeah, so I'll actually share a recent client that I was working with who's a very successful entrepreneur in the real estate game. And one of the things that I shared with him that I heard somebody share one time on social media, and I can't remember who said it, but it was really powerful. And they said, for the CEO to emerge, the hustler needs to die. Now, it's a very strong kind of wording, but just work with me here to understand it. Because this man, who was my client, was showing up from the hustle energy. And he's like, I got to hustle, I got to grind to build and grow. And his business was growing. He's been successful. But he always kept coming back to me and saying like, man, I just feel like I'm never doing enough, bro. I feel like the more I have, the Rolex that I have, the fast car that I drive, nothing is making me happy. I feel like every time I go out to dinner with my friends, I can't be present because I'm thinking about the next thing that I need to do. And then whenever I go out with, the family on the boat that he bought to spend time, he's sitting on the boat feeling guilty for taking a Sunday off. And I asked him the question, I was like, okay, great. So what does the hustler energy for you do? And he goes, well, for the moment, I get things done and it's a quick hit of instant gratification. But once I get that one hit, I have to do it again and again and again. And he's stuck in this cycle trying to prove and hustle. Right. So when we took a moment and took a step back and realized that, again, this hustle energy was coming from him feeling unworthy, feeling like he's not deserving of the success he has, feeling like he can't relax because he's not working. When we identified all those things and realized he was trying to prove to his father that he was worthy, everything shifted and changed. Right? And it's not that he just stopped working and just wasn't creating the business. It's not that he just became less passionate and driven. It just now he really allowed himself to enjoy life. And as you beautifully said, when we move up the scale of the different frequencies that we then embody, that's what we begin to attract. So as he allowed himself to play and be in a state of joy, he was then bringing that energy, that work to his team. And his team was receiving that. and they were performing better. He was then bringing that level of joy to his visioning and the work with his clients, and they were receiving that as well. So more business was starting to come in. So after 6 months of working together, he went from constantly working 16 hours, feeling like he's not doing enough, to moving to a place of him working like 10x less hours, but generating 10x more revenue. Because he was doing it from, again, a place of abundance and joy and peace, as opposed to feeling like he has to hustle and grind, right? And that allowed him to make that transition from hustler to CEO. And it came back to self-love. It came back to saying no. And it came back to asking for support and the things that he truly desires, not what he thinks he should do because his dad or his mom told him when he was younger.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things that I would speak into and speak about.
Yeah.
When
I think
when we talk
that's
about
a great story.
too.
And that really sums it up well. And I wrote it down. For the CEO to appear, the hustler needs to die or disappear. If you want to use a different language. But I think you gave a really good example here. As we're coming close to the end of our conversation, I have one more question that I really want to ask you that I'm curious how you're going to respond, and that is, if you could spend an hour of your time with any person, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
That's a great question, bro. I got a couple people. I got a couple people on the roster. But if I had to choose in this moment right now, I'd probably love to go out and have a nice little coffee or a nice little chocolate donut or cake with Buddha.
Why?
Because Buddha has gone through an incredible journey of being constrained, of living like the materialistic world, and then transitioning into a higher elevated state, which became so potent and so powerful and so undeniable that I'm speaking about him still till this day. And I want to know and ask him questions on how he got to step into that, what that opened up for him, and how can one continue building that to then bring goodness and be of service to the world. And of course, the Buddha had a lot of laughter and joy, and that's something that I deeply value. So I can only imagine how much fun we would have laughing and having just an incredible time, because laughter is medicine in itself. And again, the more we laugh, the more we raise our frequency, and when we build from that frequency, we get the things we desire from a place of being magnetic, from a place of ease and grace, as opposed to hustle and grind and resistance. So to me, Buddha would be the person that I would like to sit down with.
I will join you with a cup of green tea and a good laugh to have a talk with the Buddha. I think that's a great answer. Tell us, tell us a little bit about Modern Renaissance Men. What is it about? What are you offering there? Also, I know you do one-on-one coaching. So if you could speak into that a little bit, and then best way for people to learn more information and to connect with you personally.
Yeah, absolutely. So Modern Renaissance Man, as the name implies, has been a beautiful inspiration that crafted from that living room, from that story that I told when I was in corporate. And it was something that I needed most. I needed men that can hold me to a higher standard and allow me to see how to move different to create the life I love. So we decided to create a community that offers tools, training, and the support for men to raise their standard of excellence and help them create the life that they truly love. So we do experiences, we have events, workshops, and we have an online community for those that are global to be at that level and continuously receive the accountability, the support, and sharpen our swords. right? So that's Modern Renaissance Man, and I would invite any man who's curious to check it out. And then with regards to one-on-one coaching, this is even of a higher standard of excellence that speaks to high-performing men that are really looking to embody their greatest potential so that they can then create the life they love in both life, leadership, and business, and step in with more freedom, joy, and peace, and ultimately live their best life. Yeah, live their best life. Live their best life.
Beautiful. How can people connect with you and ask you some questions?
Yeah, you can check me out on Instagram. That's the most active social media platform I'm on. You can find me at Voy, VOY _ official, Voy official. Or you can check out my website, which is www.voyofficial.com.
Beautiful.
Or
And I wanted to add something there. As a personal testimony, I have received his coaching on multiple occasions. I have also been received Modern Renaissance, MRMs to make it easier, magic, and they are. If you look at the world of men's world, there's a lot of men's groups out there where, in order to get in, you have to grow out your hair and your beard, and you got to have a wandering staff. So it's a bit more rugged. It's a bit more Gandalf, Bilbo, Lord of the Rings style. Nothing wrong with that. Don't take it from me like as a judgment. It's really just more like an observation. And MRM is for more of the modern man, the cool, the swaggy kind of man, right? The way that Voy looks right now. And I can just let everybody know, and I recommend this work specifically with MRM and Voy to every single male client that I have. And I don't do that because Voy is a friend, is a dear brother of mine. Like, I have lots of friends, but I don't recommend everybody's work. His work and what he stands for and what he does, true level of mastery. Please do yourself a favor, at least check it out. If it sparks any curiosity in you, by all means, click the links there, book a call with Voy or with one of the people. It will change your life. It's an investment that will pay itself forward for decades to come.
Wow. Thank you for that, my brother. I fully receive that. And I really appreciate you for creating a platform in this space for us to jam out. I trust we'll have a part 2 because I honestly have a lot of questions for you that I want to bring into. So perhaps we could do a part 2 where we get to jam out a little bit more, and I can tap into your mind as well, because I know you have so much wealth and wisdom. And I want to say, for those listening, Mario has been an incredible pillar in my life. And without him, I wouldn't be where I am today. So he is without a doubt a man I highly respect. I also would invite anybody to his work. And I'm not just saying that because he's one of my closest friends. He became one of my closest friends because of the level of respect and mastery that he carries. And if you ever get an opportunity to work with this man, lean in 2 feet, 2 hands, head deep, and allow yourself to receive, because you will transform. So let's get this growth.
Thank you, my brother. There will be a part 2 under one condition: we have to record it in person, not via Riverside. But with that, we are complete.
It would just be hugs the whole time.
And lots of silly jokes. So stay tuned for that one. It's coming. My friends, go check out Voy. The links are in the show notes. Thank you all for tuning in today. Thank you for making this podcast possible. And I will see you on the next episode of the Zenpreneur podcast. We are complete. Peace.